Hi, I'm Chris Wood from AEV. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to spend a little time going over AEV's brand new rear bumper and tire carrier for Jeep JK. AEV's put a lot of time and energy into engineering this new product. If you're someone who enjoys overland camping, long distance travel, I think there are some features here you'll enjoy learning about. So if you've got a few minutes, let's have a closer look. Obviously, one of the most important jobs of any bumper is to protect the vehicle. And this is particularly critical with four-wheel drive vehicles, where impacts of rocks can often come up right from beneath here and cause all kinds of damage for sheet metal here. Now, to build the right amount of protection into AEV's bumper, we've gone ahead and used some very heavy materials in all the right areas. We're going to move in a little closer here and show you some of these in just a few minutes, starting off with this corner. If you spend any time looking at aftermarket bumpers, you'll notice that a lot of them attached to the chassis here come out around the corner of the vehicle and terminate. They don't actually return back to the chassis behind the wheel well. To really give adequate protection against rocks, the way you need to approach it is the way AEV has, with a heavy tube that attaches to the chassis here, wraps around beneath the corner and goes back and terminates at the chassis. This is the only way you're going to get the type of adequate protection you need from big rocks on trails like the Rubicon. Now, for additional benefit, AEV has tucked the tubing up nice and high for added ground clearance. And once again, for guys who run a lot of rock trails or even wooded trails, ground clearance matters. If you move around to the center of AEV's bumper here, once again, just like with the corners, you'll find heavy gauge steel. Now, what you may not be able to see from there is how this bumper comes down and the lip actually rolls around back up on itself. We've done that to provide a nice heavy-duty edge that's smooth so you can slide over boulders and earth whenever you encounter them on the trail. It's not uncommon on less expensive bumpers, however, to find they've actually just cut off the steel here in a butt edge. And unfortunately, that's very susceptible to bending and snagging on the trail. Now, moving a little higher up here, you'll see that we've incorporated a nice step, good and wide with a tread plate built into it. From here, you can step up onto a roof rack or maybe just tie your shoe in the morning from the back of the Jeep. One of the other nice things about AEV's bumper is that we continue to utilize the factory receiver hitch. What you can't see from there is that right behind the bumper here is a very heavy cross member connected to the chassis on both sides. No reason to modify that. Really, it's about as sturdy as it's going to get. Makes for a great way to tow trailers, obviously, and also makes for a great place for vehicle recovery when on the trail. Two other critical elements of any good off-road bumper would be heavy-duty recovery points, like you see here, and also high-lift jacking points with tongue retainers. Now, for recovery points, AEV uses half-inch plate that passes directly through the bumper, sandwiches up next to the chassis, and is bolted straight in. Very sturdy, very dependable, and above all, very safe. What you see here is an actual high-lift jack engaging the lifting point on AEV's bumper. Right next to it, the most important part is the retainer lip that's going to keep this jack from slipping out from under the bumper as you begin to lift the vehicle. That's an incredibly important safety feature that all bumpers should have, and surprisingly many don't. What you'd have with any kind of a slip would be something like this. What you can see right now is that lip does its job and retains the tongue, keeps a safe mounting point for the jack. One of the particularly interesting aspects of AEV's rear bumper are these twin 2.3-gallon water tanks. Now, for anybody who's done a lot of long-distance off-road trips, you know that adequate water supply is a real challenge, and storing it is particularly difficult. AEV did a lot of looking at a lot of bumpers out there, and we realized that all bumpers have a lot of dead space in them. We've gone ahead and made use of that dead space by employing these two tanks on either side of the bumper. These tanks are constructed from strong cross-linked polyethylene. This is actually the same material used to construct whitewater kayaks. And if you take a look at this section here that we sawn in half, you can see it's actually over 1/4 of an inch thick in a lot of places. Incredibly sturdy material. So even without the steel to protect it down here, this could still take a hit. Now, to fill both of these tanks, you actually do it from only one side. The tanks are actually plumbed together. And to get the water back out, we have this optional pump that you can screw in to use in camp. A really functional feature that a lot of people like to have when they're camping. You know, while we're on the subject of these water tanks, I wanted to bring something to your attention. And that's the way the line of these water tanks blends so seamlessly into these fender flares. You know, this is pretty much the essence of AEV. You expect the features, you expect the performance, but at the end of the day, AEV takes the time to make these products look like they could have come from the factory, and we really feel that's what sets us apart.